Hello, I'm Daphne Goode in Cobble Hill at Coventry Woodworks. And we're delighted today to introduce you to Karen Trickett, who is a female artisan. Welcome to Go Island, Cowichan Valley. On today's show, brewing a success on Vancouver Island, we'll visit Serious Coffee, political commentary with Sean Leslie, and beauty in wood. We'll focus on the functional and whimsical with Karen Trickett. All that and more on Go Island, Cowichan Valley.
Go Island is brought to you by German Auto Import Network.
Karen Trickett has been designing, building, repairing, and finishing furniture and automotive trim for over 20 years. She strives to have all her work reflect attention to detail and high-quality joinery and finish. She's been busy at her Coventry Woodwork shop preparing for the Cowichan Valley Artisans Tour and the Cowichan Fine Arts Show. Wow, aromatic cedar. You just have to love this. So Karen, it's an example of one of many woods you work with. Can you tell us a bit about the properties of aromatic cedar?
Moths hate it. That's why we use it. It's usually only used in linings of cedar chests and closets and stuff to moth-proof.
Is it hard to find?
It can be in veneer. I was lucky and stumbled across a bit of this. You usually buy it in small planks that are sold at the Windsor plywood and places like that, and you would cut them and put them inside a piece. Yeah.
I find it fascinating looking at the grain of this aromatic cedar, and similar if we were looking at oak or wood or pine, every wood seems to have its very distinct properties.
Oh, definitely, and some are much better uses of things than others. Like Western red cedar, you virtually never see it as indoor furniture because structurally you just can't make it light enough to be strong enough. Because there is a reason it's used for kindling.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. Where oak or maple or something, you can refine it down a lot more, get gentle curves and lines, but it can stand up to that because this wood is structurally strong.
Now, you are one of the very few female woodworkers on Vancouver Island. So how did you fall into this?
Well, it started out as a hobby with my grandfather when I was young, and all through high school I did sciences and I did veterinary work before that, but I always kept going back to woodworking, and I need some bookshelves. Well, I better make them. And then I took more night school classes and more training, and to where I am today.
Well, obviously it's not just an aptitude then, it was something you kind of grew up with. It's in your genes almost.
Well, growing up on a farm, you see lots of wood, fences, gates, doors, all sorts of things, and they all need repairing, so you learn to work with it.
Yeah. Karen, tell us about this wonderful piece beside us, because I know it relates to your past as well.
Yes, this was in my grandfather's shop, and it is a piece that came out of one of the CPR coastal steamships. My grandfather was the marine superintendent for CPR shipping, and when they refitted the ships, they would bring them into the docks in Victoria and take out things that were not needed anymore or being renewed, and they'd put it on the docks, and I don't know if they sold it or auctioned it or what. This particular piece, though, was a big set of drawers that all the silver flatware went in, so all of the drawers are lined with this felt flocking.
Right, that makes sense.
So it makes the screws so they don't rattle around too much.
It's all so nice and neat.
Yeah.
This is really a very well-organized woodworking shop. Does that help you in your work?
Oh, definitely. Not that my husband can find things too often. He usually has to say, what drawer is such and such in? And I'll say, well.
We have to describe, this is an interesting partnership because both you and your husband work with furniture.
That's correct.
Your husband connected to the Fine Furniture program at Camosun.
Yes.
So you happily share this space?
We do. I let him in here sometimes. No, actually, he's in here a lot, and he's the main designer of the building, and then we built it together. So it is a group project.
Yeah.
But he's involved with this as much as, if not more, than I am. Yeah.
So tell us about the other pieces you have from your grandfather's era.
Well, some of the other cabinets would have been mounted in not necessarily the public areas of the boat, but they would have covered giant throw switches for the electrical systems. And as things got invented and modernized, then they came out, and they're not deep cabinets, but they're extremely useful. So all of the varnished cabinets in the shop were old CPR ones. There's one over here that is a cabinet that was used for holding the silver serving platters and stuff. So I renovated it a bit so that it's more useful for me. But so yeah, but they're all made in Scotland on the River Clyde.
Wow, fascinating piece of history that.
Brought out here on the old CPR boats as they were brought to Canada.
Now, when you were little, I mean, it sounds like you were so small you could barely even maybe see over the bandsaw that your grandfather might have been using. There must be some memories you have from those early days about what it meant to you to be watching him crafting and creating.
Well, he was a home hobby maker, and he used to, when they refitted the ships, they would take things off, and quite often they were big panels of teak. So everybody in the family remembers teak furniture, and Grandpa would make teak coffee tables, and he'd do these carvings in the top called a basket weave. And I can remember him holding the chisel and telling me to hit it with the mallet to carve the tops of the tables and stuff like that. So, and he was always fixing things, but he always had us laughing, and he was a real practical joker. And I remember distinctly as a little kid in the shop with him one day, and he tore his thumbnail quite badly, caught it on something, and it's like, oh, that's nasty, Grandpa. And he says, I can fix that. And he gets some LePage's wood glue and glops it on there and puts the finger in mouth, that'll fix that. And I'm thinking, wow, that's magical stuff. And then it wasn't until years later, Granny told me as soon as I went home that night, he had to soak his thumb for an hour in warm water and salt before he could get it to clean off.
The Cowichan Valley Artisans Tour will include several artists in addition to Karen Trickett. Painter Jennifer Lawson, woodworker Ken Broadland, ceramic artist Kathy Jefferson, painter Cheryl Painter, glass artists Peggy Brackett and Joe Ludwig, Venturi Schultz Vineyards, and ceramic artist Mary Fox. Enjoy the tour April 25th to the 27th. We're coming back, but first we're going to have a visit with some people who've really built an empire on Vancouver Island. How do you build a really great coffee business? Well, one cup at a time, as you'll find out after our break with Paul Beilstein's story. We're back inside the wood shop at Coventry Woodworks with Karen Trickett, and you'll have a chance to meet Karen, look at all her work, and enjoy the artwork in the Cowichan Valley, because this is the season. As we said, the Cowichan Fine Arts Show opens on the 30th and runs until Sunday, May 4th. There's where you can see Karen's work as well. She'll be involved with the Cowichan Artisans Tour from April 25th to the 27th. So obviously, Karen, you're not shy and you don't mind opening this wood shop to the public?
No, not in the least. A lot of people find it a fascinating process, so anybody that wants to come and look is more than welcome.
Yeah, that is a neat process to meet the artist. And speaking of that, it sounds to me like you do functional work, but you also do ornamental work. How would you describe all of the things you do?
If it's made of wood, we can do it.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know, from intricate stuff to turnings to structural. It's all done.
Well, you've had some really interesting commissions over the years. What are some that you can tell us about?
Well, some of the biggest ones were ones that I did a number of years ago for BC Transit, and they were the restoration of 2 overhead electric streetcars. One weighed 15 ton and was 30 feet long, and the other weighed 35 ton and was 55 feet long.
And they're still in use?
Yes, they are. One runs on the line right in front of Science World in Granville Island. They run it in the summer there. And the other runs on a small line up in Nelson, which is actually North America's smallest streetcar line.
I didn't know that. You probably learn a lot in this business.
You know, you just need to ask the questions.
Yeah.
And it's good lunch conversation.
Well, this is particularly interesting to me because we've already said you are a bit rare being a female woodworker, and I would think especially rare that you work in automotive woodwork, like this dash we have. Can you tell us more about it?
Well, we got into doing this, or I got into doing this because my husband and I are in the British car hobby to a degree, and we had a car that had a lot of wood on it that we had fixed, and people would say, oh, can you do that for me? Can you fix this for me? And one thing led to another, and the next thing I know, I'm doing Jag interiors and Bentley interiors and fabricating parts for all sorts of things. And it's something I do more in the winter than in the summer, because in the winter people, this winter I'm going to have this done on the car or something.
Right.
So I usually see a bit more through the winter. And this is a dash for a Triumph TR4.
Neat.
In a wood called Macaray, which is from South America. And it's got a beautiful wavy fleck through it. And nice to work with. Yeah.
People usually with classic cars or older British cars are very particular. Does that work for you? Are you happy to work on that kind of detail
Oh
and
yeah,
collaboration?
that's what half of the interest. And you know, when you look in a lot of the old vintage vehicles, especially the British ones, if you were to draw a line down the middle of the car, what you see on one side of the car exactly mirrors what you see on the other side of the car. It's what we call book matching. So I have a supplier in Victoria that I buy veneer through, and I basically buy enough to do the interior of whatever project I've got on, and then I lay it all out so that the right mirrors the left. And there's usually a line right down the middle of the dash where it's a joint.
Yeah.
And,
So in the case of that, you're working with others and you're collaborating, and you maybe ask for various commissions. But it comes down to really also being your own boss. So don't you have to have an awful lot of discipline for that?
You know, the customer wants it done as soon as possible, so you just get on it. A lot of times, you know, it's not only just redoing it, but repairing a lot of the old vintage woodwork. You know, the plywoods back in the 30s, 40s, and 50s weren't anything like they are today, so you usually end up having to repair what's under the veneer before you put the new veneer on.
Yeah, right.
And that gets quite detailed, but it also shows me a most incredible path of how it would have been made.
Yeah.
And very detailed work, yeah.
I'm dying to know more about the woods you love to work with. We've got a few samples here. We've got ash, cherry, and eastern maple. So you've worked, I'm sure, with a huge variety of woods. Are there any that are your favorites in particular, Karen?
I love working with the air-dried woods. I love working with the local woods. I do a lot of work in western maple. It's easy to get around here. There's a number of small mills that will mill it up. Yeah, I can get it easily in figured boards, so they have a nice, beautiful grain pattern to them. Cherry's a lovely wood to work with. Beautiful, machines beautifully, and finishes beautifully.
Easy to find?
It's getting harder to find good-sized boards that don't have defects on them. A lot of the big factories back in the eastern U.S. Get the premium stuff. But, you know, if you are patient and poke through the piles, you can usually get some nice stuff.
Yeah, I bet. This is ash.
Yeah.
What is ash used for?
Ash is used a lot on structural components of the old vintage cars because it's very flexible. It has a memory. It's used a lot in sports equipment, hockey sticks, and wooden old tennis rackets and lacrosse sticks and stuff like that, because it will flex, but it will go back to what it was before. So, you know, it's quite versatile.
Right, and then eastern maple is
Eastern maple is used a lot for countertops because it wears so well. It's really hard. You know, we might have western maple here, but the eastern maple that's grown back east is way harder than, and very, very durable. So kitchen counterwork specifically, yeah, great for that.
Now, some of the women that are watching may be interested to know that you teach.
Yes.
And what kind of teaching have you done?
I teach in a few different places. The last number of classes I've been teaching have all been through Lee Valley in Victoria, and I'll go in and I'll do a 2 or 3 day seminar, and some of the most popular ones I've been doing are actually women's woodworking.
Neat.
And,
I wonder if there are more women interested these days.
you know, it's a growing interest, that's for sure. A bunch of the fellows at Lee Valley always tell me when the new class schedule comes out, the women's woodworking is one of the first classes that fills.
The Cowichan Valley Fine Arts Show will be held from May 1st until May 4th at the Portals Gallery in the Island Savings Centre on James Street in Duncan. To enjoy the Cowichan Valley Artisans Tour, pick up a map and brochure. The tour runs from April 25th to the 27th from 10 until 5 p.m. We'll be back with Karen in just a few minutes, and after the break, we're going to find out what's going on at the BC Legislature. Stay with us. This is Cam Russell's unusual 3D modern design take on an early 1800s chest of drawers now in the Maltwood collection at UVic. He enjoys taking classic forms and giving them a twist. Cam's wife, Karen Trickett, works in custom furniture, marquetry, and automotive woodwork. We've talked a lot about the functional art, but marquetry is something you've done a lot of work with, and we've got a really good example here. So maybe I'll have you describe this, Karen, if you could.
This is actually a test piece that I did for a commission I had. A lady wanted a king-size headboard on a bed that had hummingbirds on it, so I had to do a bunch of research and draw patterns and everything. So this was just what I did to remind myself in what sequence I cut it, that's why you see all the numbers, because you can see by looking at the front and the back that it pierces right through the entire piece of wood. So each of the colors you see is brought to life by a piece of solid wood that has been cut and inserted in there, which creates your picture.
So there's a huge amount of detail, and even on the pupil you were saying you use a toothpick?
Yeah, that's the last one thing that goes in. That should have number 19 on it.
That's incredible. And then you've got this sample.
Yeah, I do marquetry from time to time, classes, usually through Lee Valley and stuff, and just teaching people how to do marquetry. And this is a simple piece that I get the students to cut out to learn the technique. It's just a branch with a stem and a leaf. And they learn the technique and how to lay it out and draw the pattern onto it. And I show them 3 different techniques. So they'll go home with 3 different leaves, each cut a different way. Yeah.
So this is where you could really use a lot of artistic freedom, I'm thinking, as compared to functional things like
totally.
automotive, woodwork, or whatever.
Yeah, no, you know, if I have a commission from a customer to do something on a headboard or a panel for a piece of furniture or something, I'll go for a walk. And you know, if it's something nature-based, then I'll go for a walk, and oh, that's a cool-looking branch, and I'll bring it home with me, and I'll lay it out on my full-size drawing and fit it in and change it a little bit and create it into what I envision, and then I depict that into my picture using the marquetry.
Right.
And I get a lot of people enrolling in the programs that had no skill at all, had never even used a hand drill before, and you know, and they were just so thrilled to go home at the end of the class. You know, it would be a 9-session class with a finished piece of furniture they made, a small cabinet or a step stool.
And just before we go, I do want to say you're going to have some pieces in the Fine Arts Show, and you're also on the Artisans Tour. Do you know what you're going to be putting in the Fine Arts Show?
I do. It is a cedar chest. It's here in the shop, and I'm just in the finishing stages of it. So it's all, by the end of the week, I'm probably going to be together. And it is a cedar chest, a storage trunk, whatever you want to call it, with a few twists to it. So made out of a wood called sapele, which is a type of mahogany, and some figured western maple that is from the Chemainus area.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
And the Artisans Tour is quite different. Your studio will be open. Might be a little difficult to be working with a bandsaw at the same time that you're welcoming guests. But
well, yeah, I find I can only work on things that I don't really have to concentrate on, because you don't want to make a mistake and ruin materials. But I usually always have some project on in the shop, and I have the upstairs set up as a studio showroom. So I'll have furniture set up there and some things for sale if anybody is so inclined.
is there anything you'd say no to?
Probably not. You know, I've done boat work, I've done automotive work, I've done housework, I've done built-ins, I've done tiny little treasure boxes, I have done pet crematoriums, I've done...
Wow.
Yeah, you name it, and I've done it.
Karen Trickett's work, along with several other artists' work, will be shown during the Cowichan Valley Artisans Tour. The tour runs from April 25th to the 27th from 10 until 5 p.m. The website has further details, cowichanvalleyartisans.com. Karen will also show her work at the Cowichan Valley Fine Arts Show, running from May 1st to the 4th at Portals Gallery in the Island Savings Centre. From Coventry Woodworks, that's our program for this week, and we are thrilled that you joined us, and we hope you'll be watching again. Remember, we really enjoy your story ideas. We found out so much about people, events, activities, and interesting developments in the Cowichan Valley, all because you have been engaged, and we really appreciate that. You can reach us on Facebook or Twitter or email us, and we hope to see you next time. Bye-bye for now.
Go Island is brought to you by German Auto Import Network. Women's clothing provided by Tulip Noir. Casual designer fashions. Men's wardrobe by DG Bremner & Co. Menswear and accessories. Hair services provided by Salon J.